Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on the place where you are connecting from. And welcome to our Save Talk regarding endless vulnerabilities and smarter defenses. Thanks for joining us for this new edition of our Save series, where we are going to explore the real world challenges. We are going to try to share some practical tips and insights so you could apply them to your day to day. Today, we focus on what every DevSecOps or DevOps and security team faces, the overwhelming volume of vulnerabilities and the growing gap between what our frameworks describe and what we actually put on our software at risk. CVEs and CEWEs still have their place, but modern threats are shifting fast from leaked secrets to dependency confusion, from misconfigurations, AI generated code, software risk. Today, everything is broader and more contextual and is more complex to criticize because of the number of and the volume of the risk that we are facing. That's why we are here today to unpack what vulnerabilities means in 2025, how to filter noise, how to remove the noise, and how to ensure that we are putting focus on the things that matter and that the things that actually affect or impact in our application security. We are going to do this with smarter defenses, and we need a fast paces, and we need also AI powered development environments. To help us, we have today two very impressive persons here. We welcome Marcel, and thank you for being here. Okay, Marcel is internationally recognized security leader and senior security program manager at Eventbrite, where he leads strategic initiatives across cloud security, compliance, automations, and AI governance. Thank you, Luis, for being here also with us today. Luis is our CTO at Sayeni and is co-founder also of Sayeni and Kiwan. That is a very important tool. And Luis is also a seasoned application security expert with more than 15 years in software security and facing all these challenges with the customer, providing a very important solution to them. He currently leads the innovation and software supply chain protection, malware detection, and modeling of software development lifecycle risk. So welcome both and thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's
Thank you very
start.
much, Jesus.
Fantastic. So just to start, we are mentioning the big amount of CVEs and new threats that we are facing today. Last year, near 30,000 CVEs were published, but we know, and we all of us knows that many of them actually, or the many of the threats that appear in the real world never reach a database or are not reported in any way. Leaked credentials, poisoned packages, misconfigured pipelines. We have today a lot of different ways to exploit our defenses. It's clear that we need to move and to shift left in order to be more proactive instead of so reactive and start patching our strategic plans. Okay, so just to start questioning, you can speak as you prefer, and you can interchange or provide your views. But for example, Marcel, I don't know, for example, according to your experience within this security program, how do you approach the risk management with these threats and facing the challenges of the traditional CV databases and classifications?
Sure thing. First of all, thank you very much for inviting. Very happy to be here. Answering your question, I think the most dangerous vulnerabilities in 2025 aren't always listed in the CV databases because a lot of them they are embedded in decisions and dependencies. So to keep in mind the traditional patch and models that can simply keep up with the velocity of our modern deployment or development. So in my programs, what we did, we moved beyond the CVE-driven adopted, and what we do is we try to contextualize first or give a risk approach, because that way we can understand besides the CV as itself, what are the priorities, what's the business impact, um, what's the exposure surface. So that's how we basically frame this whole model from um, shift left and then zoom out. So we don't just um, embed the security in our C9 CND environment, but we also align it with how the product team thinks about trust, the time, the velocity. We focus on the shadow risk, things like
Mhm,
exposed S3 buckets, for example, or over
mhm.
premises role misconfiguration pipelines. All those, besides the CVE itself, those are just silent killers. So a lot of um, business are not seeing all that part. And then by the end, in my opinion, the risk today is about visibility, but also
Mhm.
about speed and velocity. Because if you're being able to see beyond what you know, acting with speed, you're already way, way ahead of the risk that it's happening. That's my opinion.
Very good, Marcel. I'm going to take note on the silent killers. This concept is really interesting. Thank you very much. Luis, according your experience, or to complement Marcel, what are you seeing in the customer, or was your experience in the real world modifications or advancing the way the customers defend against these new challenges?
Well, traditional tools always use two references, CVE and CWE for code flows and for open source flows. Those were the main sources of truth in terms of risks for software security. But obviously, those are aging systems. They are most of them are out of date. Out of date. For example, Marcel mentioned the S3 bucket access control risk, which is typically there are many other cloud environment issues. Not only improper access controls, but also exposed APIs and other issues that rarely qualify as CVE IDs. And there are many other issues. For example, in the software infrastructure itself, not only in the software produced by the customers, by the organizations, but also in the systems that build and that deploy the software. And those the bad guys are smart enough to understand that they don't need to exploit vulnerabilities in software. They can
Mhm.
get another round and attack to the software building itself. We know the attacks in the recent past. I don't know to I don't need to remember all those issues, but these weaknesses are also part of the attack surface, and they are not covered by traditional software security programs. So we need to change because we move quickly in 15 years. We move from a traditional system, monolithic systems, to cloud-based systems, cloud native even, with externalized build systems, with externalized development, and with obviously a lot of integrations with third parties, which I don't control. I don't have any control on that third parties. So the attack surface exploded, and I have to my software and the users of my software have to have some more control on how I produce that software. And this is the modern systems, and I have the security programs have to adapt to this new situation, and this is not easy, as we will see in this talk.
Mhm. You have mentioned two important things. One is you introduced, Luis, is okay, the vulnerability is not just the something in the code, because attackers are taking other approaches, other ways. And Marcel mentioned it something very important is I have to see the exposure surface. So we have like a wider front or wider interface with attackers. So the definition of vulnerability has changed. It's not an issue in the code. How do you think that has evolved this vulnerability, or what will be the definition of vulnerability today? And what are the main practices to defend against these new attacks? It's not just SAST or ACA, so we need more tools or more advanced tools or new capabilities. How do you see this new definition and new tools or new defenses? You can start as you prefer. I don't know. Luis, Marcel. Luis,
Marcel, if
go
you
ahead.
want.
Well,
I have just one other problem. The problem with the advent of AI assisted code assistants, the agentic AI that helps developers to produce code based either from a specification which is named byte coding, or in a more controlled way, if you want to create a small function. I use that in my daily working. The problem with that is I expect security flows to be injected at a higher pace, unless the security programs in organizations take into consideration these new risks, because the coding assistants hallucinate. They sometimes even produce software that is vulnerable. They leak secrets. For example, the secrets are not protected. They put the secret in the hard coded and if the developer is not trained to review the source code for vulnerabilities and for secret leaks, for example, they will end in the software, in production software. And if review is a must. In the old days and in the new, with the new tools, the new AI based code assistants. This is one point. The other is malware. We are not talking here about just about vulnerabilities, unintentional flows in software that opens the door to the bad guys. We are also talking here about malicious behavior injected by the bad guys, by the adversaries, to gain access without exploiting vulnerabilities. They don't need to wait for the developer to commit a flaw in the, or use a vulnerable component, because patching is all the time is a process. They try to gain access by injecting malicious behavior, either by producing malicious components in the software registries. This is a very typical, because the barrier entry is low with JavaScript and with Python, but there are other languages that they are starting to play with. So this is redefining the software security issue, the definition of that. Not only vulnerable software, but also malicious software.
Well, you have mentioned two things. One is the new sources of vulnerabilities because of the tools that we are using. Another one is a new type of attacks, that is the malware, and that the malware is growing and is finding new ways to attack or to enter in the application code or in the build system, as you mentioned before also. So, Marcel, when you talked before about the exposure context, is something else, or is something related to this part, or what you
Yeah,
consider in the context, or the new things that you have to monitor to be protected?
yeah, I think my opinion goes on the same line as Luis. The teams usually, the definition of vulnerability nowadays is not like we had before 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? In 2025, a code bug or something that we had in our code is just a blind spot that we can use, because today risk, it should be more on misconfiguration of all our permissions, on SaaS permissions. If we get into the AI, we can speak here for 1 hour, but AI, it's a whole new generation. We could discuss about the code dependencies, the coded, hard-coded secrets in the infrastructure, or the abandoned package that can be poisoned. And that's something that a lot of businesses, they are not even looking at them. For a security team to lead these vulnerabilities as effectively, I would say they should see not just what's broken, but what's exposed or over trusted, because this is where it falls, all those CVs that we discussed before. If we lean in any vulnerabilities, but we don't have enough contextual risk in terms how is affecting my business, my important sensitive data, how those tools are not verifying enough, or how lack of discovery we have, then we fail to understand those CVs. So in my opinion, and going on the same line as Luis, let's try. I will open these discussions for any cybersecurity leaders out there. Let's start. It's time to let's try that all the misconfiguration that we are seeing, all the over permissions, or the AI hallucinations. Let's start treating them as first class vulnerabilities, not just second classes and some aspects that we will check to check boxes. That's my opinion.
It's a good approach. In order to be more proactive or more preventive, we don't check where we have the vulnerabilities, what I expose, or what are the potential ways to someone attack me, like these parties, for example, you mentioned before. Okay, I have to protect them. They are not malicious today, but they could be malicious tomorrow in a new version or whatever. So I have to be and to take care of searching that or monitoring that, because as you mentioned, probably even teams are not considering a potential vulnerability there, and they are unprotected because they are not putting any barrier there. Very interesting, very interesting. You have mentioned a lot of things for the context, over permissions, visibility, third parties, a lot of things. Some statistics says that less than 10% of the vulnerabilities that are detected are solved, actually. But the thing is, if we solve very few of them, and we have much more than before, the problem is how do we prioritize, or how do we decide what to solve, or what is the important thing in all these huge amount of vulnerabilities? I don't know, you have different approaches. Taking into consideration these all things, over permissions, exposure, deploy, exposed to internet, business impact, for example, because it's not probably not the same, the severity or the criticality for the business. How do you do the exercise to say, okay, I'm going to focus on this 100? I don't know.
Obviously, context is king, as Marcel mentioned before. There is different stages. First is consolidation. You have to take from different detectors. Maybe a code review is a good place to detect security, a coding flow, for example. But also there are many tools out there, and tools are silos that are getting findings. You have to consolidate all that. You have to clear the noise. There are many noise in these tools, because they are trying to avoid false negatives. They try to detect everything, but obviously they produce a lot of false positives. So you have to consolidate, remove the noise, prioritize, because your team is small. Your security aware team is very, very small in the organization. Marcel can confirm this, and obviously you need to mitigate or solve or fix the things that really matter. And this is each organization has their own priorities. regarding business impact, and this is the tools cannot understand this current tools. So there is a lot of work preparing the list of issues that need to be solved, and at the end you have a list, a plain list, prioritized maybe in the best case, and you need to solve that. And you solving issues, for example, the simplest thing, in theory, is a secret leak remediation, because you have to revoke the leaked secret, the credential in the end system. But this affects maybe production systems. You have to take care of how to this simple remediation to produce. It cannot be automated so easily. If you need to remove a vulnerability in open source component, you perform typically a version bump. You upgrade to a version that fixes the issue, and the tools are ready to do that. The problem is that when you do that, your application fails because the new version does not work well with the existing software. So it's not remediation is not trivial. And you have a long list of technical debt, because your application is maybe a legacy application that has a lot of the vulnerabilities were discovered a long time, and you have a lot of a long list of things to remediate because they are critical. They are marked by the CVSS score with a 9 or a 10. So you need to fix that, and it's not trivial. So the modern tools try to improve both filtering and keeping only the vulnerabilities that really matter, because many vulnerabilities are not exploitable. My code is not using the vulnerable code in the third-party component, for example. This is the term. It has a name. Is reachability. If the vulnerable code is not reachable, I don't need to make a version upgrade, which is dangerous for the stability of the software. And the second part is remediation. I have to optimize the remediation because it's not easy. And for example, in the case of version bumping, I need some tool that can predict if the change will affect the existing software. And this is where most systems are trying to improve in the remediation itself. So I think there are two things here: reducing the number of things that really matter, and improving in remediation.
Thank you very much, Luis. Marcel, maybe taking into consideration your program approach, maybe what's your view? Probably not. Well, you can complement the technical part, but you can complement your view on or focus on the C level or the direction level, okay, in order to make them know what is important, what's the potential impact, or I don't know, a prioritization from a business level. I don't know how to express.
Yeah, no, you said it correctly, and Luis definitely touched very, very important parts. We see a lot of CVSs that they are not, fixed. You said a 10%, if I'm not mistaken, in the beginning.
Yeah.
So if we're seeing a CVSS on 9, a 10, but that lacks in terms of contextualization, in terms of business impact, we get back to the decision that we discussed with the stakeholders. Do we fix everything, or we only fix what is important for us? So it's a matter of fixing what's the most important for a business. That's not on a CVS a scoreboard from 1 to 10. You want to make sure that you protect your business, and that's the business impact. So first, what I do is when I get with the teams is what systems and what teams and what stakeholders are affected. If a vulnerability touch customer data, financial flows, functions, business PII, it goes up to the top. Straight away goes up. If it's exploitability, because we are saying, oh, this is critical, but not all the critical scores the same scores equal. We can align and discuss with the engineers. We can ask them, and then if we see that it's reachable, that it's exploitable, then that's how we turn all that noise from a CVS into what really matters. And then we can involve HR, we can involve our C staff, our T staff, and so on. Then also regulation. We haven't discussed about that, but a lot of times
Yeah.
all our PCIs, DORA, NIST, all our controls needs to go hand by hand with what demands to map it against those frameworks. So, in my opinion, at the end of the day, if we smart prioritizing, it should happen only on the things that matters for each one of the businesses, no matter how it scores on a CVS.
Thank you very much. Very interesting because it's okay. The focus is not because of the severity, it's the impact. Maybe something that is not critical from a technical point of view can make more danger to the business that another that probably is more difficult. And the regulation that you have introduced is also really interesting because it's not just to be compliant, is the penalties and the impact at the end is not only the loss of business or being stopped, but it's also the consequences of the attack and having all this part. Mhm. Thank you very much. We have mentioned or you introduced also before the difference between vulnerability and malware, like a new type of threat. Uh, for sure, they are different, and I think Luis already explained the difference. But the response, I assume, that should be different because probably a vulnerability is a potential risk, let's say, but the malware is like an attack, let's say, because if you put something there, is because you are planning something for sure. So uh, how the teams and the organizations adapt to these two different types because of the different responses. I don't know if the different teams, different tools, different procedures. I don't know. What's your experience on these parts? Marcel, probably I don't know you
Yeah.
when you are defining how to organize the
Let's see that if we think the difference, right, between what real possess a malicious and what it's threatening us, right?
Mhm,
We seen that, for example, we need to think a lot of time, is this malicious software code, alarm, incident, threat, is this really being used against us, or is just there because it has been found as a latest CV? We have to understand that because, for example, a misconfiguration may be a passive risk, but if we tamper a library of that misconfiguration or a AI generated malicious code, that change from a passive risk to an active threat. Because the distinction is vulnerabilities require patching, that's clear. But malicious requires containment. You have to go ahead and take actions. So
mhm,
if we have a, a known CVE, you can leave it there on the background for remediation. But if you detect that CVE is a malicious backdoor and that have a package or a CID pipeline, that demands real-time response, threat hunting, forensic analysis. So once again, we get back to what we discussed so far: context. Context is king. I said it, Luis said it. We need to understand how this is affecting our business. If if we are able to enrich every vulnerability that we are finding with SBOM, integrity checks, behavioral analysis, the dependency, all moves from something vulnerable for us to something suspicious. We can just leave it as suspicious. So again, context is very important, because a lot of teams, and I discussed this with a lot of security leaders, they see on their business and on their end side, they are seeing a lot of severity or priority number one, P1, severity number one tickets. Not every vulnerability deserves to be a severity number one or priority number one, P1, P0, because once the intent or once the analysis is being run, and we understand that this is not something malicious, that's not mandatory. So that's how we create that culture in our security teams, distinguish what's suspicions and what's a real threat. So I think that as an end goal, we should think more about, let's not just patch faster something that comes up in our environment, but more like, let's think and detect smarter.
Yeah, I think I agree in the sense that, okay, we need context, but the thing is, if we have more components, more things to check or to monitor, probably, I don't know, we need more tools to extract or to analyze, to gather this context in order to accelerate decisions. Because you mentioned we have a CVE that is a backdoor. We need to discover it as soon as possible. If we put in a list of 1,000 topics, probably when I reach this one has been 2 weeks ago. So I think that I agree that we need to detect these malicious threats. I don't know. You have mentioned the CVEs or equivalent to CVEs or packages or whatever. You also mentioned something before, Luis, regarding behavior or something like that. I think the key here is, okay, how can I have all this contextual information to make this decision at the speed, as you mentioned before, Marcel, the visibility and speed. I think this I agree completely, is the key. I need to see everything and very quickly identify the critical signs or lights to do this. I don't know, Luis.
Yeah. We talk about open source malicious components, components with malicious behavior inside. It's a common way of attacking. Mainly, they are mainly used for exfiltrating credentials for second phase attacks. But there are many of them in npm and PyP registries. It's a plague. There are thousands of malicious packages. They are trying. Most of them are tip squads. They are trying to mimic names of common. So if a lazy developer commits the mistake of choosing one of these names instead of the real one, and the problem is that it's a dash or a underscore that changes, and it's quite easy for a developer, a sloppy developer to do that. So this is a problem, but the problem is the targeted attacks. There are components, third-party components that depends on other, that are used by major components that often they gain access, maybe by social security attacks or other means, and they gain the right to publish code for that obscure component. It's an indirect component that nobody cares about. The problem is that this ends in the dependency graph of the software of companies, and some of the attacks are targeting a specific sector or a specific company, and they are these attacks are those who made headlines in the end, because they are looking for specific big companies typically, or organizations, governments, and so on, and they gain a lot of access simply by gaining access to an obscure third-party company that nobody knows that it even exists. So this is a problem. We are on the trenches now, scanning all the new versions of packages, and we see a lot of malware. and of all kinds. But most 99% of it is typo squads, easy typo squads for gather credentials for sales. But there are a few sharks we know name them that really are trying to are much more complex. They are trying to hide the real malicious behavior, and they are trying to exploit that. Not only open source components, but also, for example, tool plugins. And in Visual Studio Code, for example, there are many extensions that are malicious, and developers use them, and they get installed in the software that they are rendering. The malicious code gets inserted. This is a real risk, and the problem is that many organizations are not aware of this kind of risk, this kind of malicious activity, not only exploits of known vulnerabilities, but also exploiting the tools that developers and software teams use. And the point is that when you get a CVE for a malicious component, it's too late, because it's a time after you get installed the malicious component in your software.
Yeah. I think it's very good point. The topics of the plugins is true. It's not only in the software, it's also a way of entering in the infrastructure or
container images. There are many with malicious behavior. Obviously, there's another trend today to produce zero CVEs, images that have no known vulnerabilities, but maybe they have inserted some strange behavior there.
This is interesting because, for example, you mentioned, okay, I'm going to create. You mentioned let's put together several things: artificial intelligence to generate packages at incredible speed. They hallucinate, or they take benefit of hallucination of the code generating. So they try to exploit these errors to put a fictitious or a malicious package, making it. And then, okay, I can put all the packages. I'm going to take benefit of this developer using the AI, so he doesn't analyze the component. The component, if you check everything, is zero vulnerabilities. And Marcel said before, okay, but this package has a backup. Put it all together. How can I discover or realize of this error when the developer, for example, is doing the first integration or the first compilation or whatever? I cannot do it manually. It's impossible. What are the mechanisms to analyze, to detect, or to defend against this type of attacks? I don't know if it's in the DevSecOps processes or Marcel or Luis. Luis, for sure, you are going to you will have some tool, but Marcel, is a matter of tools, or we need something in the processes, in the way of working, in just considering specific assets from a design point of view.
I think it's not just a matter of tools, it's a matter of a culture, DevSecOps culture. We discussed this a lot of times. Usually companies nowadays, they are just focusing on like the tooling, starting with tools, then the processes, and then the employees or the users, right? We are doing things on the on the opposite, which is we're starting with our people. That is a foundational, training them, create that security mindset. Then we're going in processes where we're building a process that stands on every developer. It's called security by default. Means every time we are building something, we take in consideration from step number one, security. That way, we know that we're not going to end our SDLC planning, and then before we going into production, Hey, we have this problem. Hey, we're having these bugs. Hey, we're having these issues. Now we start embedding and infusing security by default since the first moment. So as I said, first, people, we care about
Mhm.
training and we care about our employee to have a secure mindset. Second is the processes that we are creating, the designs, the culture, and the last part are the tools. We
Mhm.
care to buy tools that can analyze, that can help, that can bring that SDLC and all the now with AI back to people. But if we don't have a strong foundation, as I said, what's the
Yeah,
reason of buying tools without processes and without trained people?
very interesting to be aware that check everything. The AI is a support, but check everything. This mindset of security and this training to detect these things. Very interesting. Yeah, is the foundation. Very good.
I just
Yes.
have a comment. We are. I am a tool vendor, so I am biased. I am poisoned by the tools. So, but I understand that many tools are on the desk. They are more a pain than a real help, and I understand that. And we try to take into account the people and the policy, the which is obviously the foundation. I agree with that. And we have to understand that companies are quite different. We try to do something that fits the bill for everybody, but no, each organization is different, has their own mission. They have different trends about security. We have to go with that.
Mhm. Thank you very much, Luis. Yeah, you, I don't know why I knew that you were poisoned with the tool,
You
but
you mentioned
I
one
like
one
the
You
thing.
mentioned one attack just to complement
Yeah.
your idea. This is a new attack named slope squatting. If I don't miss my mind, there is
Ah,
a.
okay, okay. Mhm.
It's when you use a code assistant and you ask for some code, it produces some code that use a hallucinated package. So the attackers produce a malicious one with that name. So if you don't mind to check if
You
the
don't
component is
review
malicious,
the.
you get the bad component installed. And the problem with that is that the software maybe goes downstream to your customers. So the
Yeah,
attack not only affects you, but also affects everyone that uses your software. That's the point of the supply chain attack. You are
yeah, yeah, yeah.
liable for the software you are
For the software.
producing so lazily. So I
Okay.
will
I'm going to search the name. Fantastic.
I will put a link for a
Mhm.
paper. This is from the University of San Antonio, which analyze this kind of
Of
thing,
attack.
this kind of attack. It's a easy to read paper, so everyone can check what we are talking about.
Thank you very much, Luis. Some reading for our audience. Fantastic. Eh? Yeah, one thing for tomorrow. We had mentioned we are going to try to accelerate a bit. We mentioned, or Marcel mentioned, the regulation, DORA, NIST, a lot of them. At the end, business is demanding new functionalities, agility, speed, and the regulations say, no, you have to check this, you have to check this, you have to check this, and I need proofs of everything. So that is could be like a friction with the agile development and this kind of things. Marcel, at the end, everything is a matter of balance. So how do you balance or make legal department and development or the DevOps department agree on what they have to, the minimum or the things they need to comply with this regulation?
Totally, Luis. Security leaders, when we are talking about compliance, they tend in the past to think as a checkbox. I have to check this to
Mm-hmm.
have it on my company, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to change that mindset. meaning frame fatigue is real. You need to work, you need to come back with all the frameworks, either ISO, either PCI, either SOC 2. But compliance isn't just a goal or a checkbox is a trust code, because every companies, if they will see that you have these frameworks, immediately you just find a trust on them. So that's the challenge, that aligning the regulation, in my approach, is turn your frameworks into code, and compliance into a culture. If we're just once per year just checking all our audits and all our controls, just because the ISO 27701 or the NIST or the DORA are chasing on our door, knocking, hey, you have to have these. You need to bring all those regulations to me so I can analyze them. Then you're just checking, again, check boxes. So for us, or for me as a cybersecurity, the most important thing is think compliance as a code, as a mindset, meaning if a control isn't automated or self-evident, you need to bring that on every year just because someone asked you, then that's the issue, that you're not moving fast enough. If your compliance goes into let's control what we have, let's bring compliance to accelerate our security maturity, then what you need to do as a company is align on resilience, on integrity, and less on what the ISOs, what the NIST, or what the CIS are requesting you as a ready checklist. That's how you begin to build more as a company by default, and not as a framework.
Interesting. Do you think that the frameworks are adapting to this new mentality? I mean, for example, ISO maybe it's just a set of checks, but probably DORA is much more open. They don't say you have to do this and you have this. No, you have to protect against this and you need this. I don't care how do you do, or take into consideration if you are a big corporate or a startup to adapt the solution. So it's not just to have the check, it's just to recommend what you have to monitor or to protect, or this kind of things.
That's why, just finishing, that's why I said in the beginning, we're not anymore on those 10 years ago when regulation asked you to do ABC. Now, as per 2025, it's more a dynamic culture.
I think that Marcel's job is needs a lot of ingenuity to comply with DORA. For example, you have to have a lot of inventive, a lot of ingenuity, for sure. In our perspective, you mentioned agile. Agile is to reduce friction, but to solve the problems. For a tool vendor, what we can do, we can streamline the process from detection to mitigation, and try to keep things where people will use them. For example, in the tools that developers or users will work on daily basis. This is our job. But we obviously sometimes we are asked how the compliance matrix, how your tool fixes this and this and this point of the compliance standard X. And we have to perform this kind of analysis. And for DORA, we have everything is supported because there is no specificity in DORA. So it's a complex thing, compliance.
Right. Well, we are reaching the end of the session. We have to talk about the artificial intelligence, the role in the security. We have mentioned several things, but we have talking for attackers, for defenses. Probably we have put more focus on the attackers, And we are not talking about the usage of artificial intelligence in the defense part, or how to use the artificial intelligence to protect against these new threats. I don't know. How do you see, for example, Luis? How do you see that the artificial intelligence is being incorporated in the new tools or in new areas to provide new capabilities to defend the organizations against these new ways of introducing malware or protecting infrastructure or reducing noise? I don't know, a lot of different use cases.
Most organizations are, for most organizations, this is work in progress. They are starting to think about it. Starting means that they have some AI tools in place before asking what are the risks for or when using that. Obviously, things go so quick in modern times that we cannot expect. The genie is out of the bottle, and we cannot expect to be again into the bottle. So what we can do, we can try to awareness is the word I would use. Awareness of what are the risks. If you know the risks, you can start with avoiding the risk or mitigation of the risks. But if you don't know which are the risks, you have no opportunities to do that. So I think that some introspection is the first thing to start with.
Mm-hmm. And Marcel, for organizations, the C-level, it's a different challenge because it's okay, my teams are going to start using artificial intelligence. How do I manage the new risks that are entering by there? And I cannot prohibit them. I have to allow. So how this affect to the way of organizing everything in the company?
I think same vision as Luis said. First of all, you won't block because this is the future. You cannot stop the advancing technology, right? But you have to think in a way of same as benefits, same as dangerous. The most dangerous AI in any enterprise is not what it's doing. It's just what you don't know what is doing the AI because every department, HR, finance, IT, security, everyone want to use AI. So the real challenge start when you're looking for discovering, and that's what it's called like shadow AI, unauthorized use of AI by employees, because everyone can use, for example, a ChatGPT, and they can go ahead and ask questions from the data inside of the company. And what happens? You have a data breach. Already data that was from the company is on the LLMs of a third-party AI. So we get back to the risk of using AI. But the defense side, I would say, shadow AI, discover what is being used, because you have extensions with AI, you have a lot of people installing AI. That's fine. You cannot say no to everyone, but you have to understand is, do we have a clear picture of what's happening on our environment? Do we understand like all the endpoints, what is using in terms of AI, what our users they are using? And then straight ahead, as a security department, go and establish AI policies. You can use AI, but under these circumstances. So you create some guardrails, and then you bring HR and you communicate widely. Once you have that in place, I would say the next thing is workflows. Integrate AI, review that risk, as Luis said, review the risk of the AI on a vendor onboarding, third-party application, if it touch the code, to be secure for the developers. So in the end, if we go in that direction with AI, don't stop your teams, don't make them feel ashamed of using AI, but as a leader, guide them. This is the way of using AI. So I would just end on saying
we connect again
embrace
with the
AI.
training and everything that we mentioned before in this approach of the culture and these things.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fantastic. We have 5 minutes just to let you finish. Very quickly, how do you see the evolution of this way of managing new vulnerabilities, new threats, and the 3 key concepts or idea for the audience according to your view today? And with this, we close. I don't know who want to start.
I will start. I left Marcel the end word. We mentioned malware. Take care of malware because it's a big threat. Not only vulnerabilities, but malware. Second, introspection. You need to understand the new risks. The attack surface is so big that you need to maybe you can write down the new risks that your organization is facing and look for which is how these risks are being controlled in with the security measures, and which would be the ideal thing with the resources you have. This you can do this exercise on paper, and this is a great work if you have any competence in part of the organization in security issues. And I think third is take care with AI. AI is there, will be there forever. Maybe we'll replace ourselves. I don't know, but there are even some tools. They are starting as AI native, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You are doing everything from detection to remediation based on AI. No human intervention in developing the tool. We will see what happens, but things are very crazy.
Security, a black box controlling the security. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, the generative AI is a black box. It's nice to produce tests that seems reasonable, but if it can summarize very well the documents. But if you try to get an action plan that makes sense, it fails because it has no purpose. It has no understanding of anything. So at least in the current state of the technology, the AI technology, generative AI, we are far away from that. But let's see.
Thank you very much, Luis. Marcel, your view on the evolution and 3 key topics or ideas for the day-to-day of our audience.
Yeah, I think we discussed this. We said it loud and clear for everyone, right? That context on your severities beats any numbers. We said that any board of the CIO, CMO, CPOs, all the company board, they don't speak in terms of those numbers. They won't understand. They speak about impact. If you go back to your CIO and you're telling, hey, I have a 9.8 risk, he will not understand. Tell him about customer trust, brand reputation, a business continuity will go down. The business will be a brand reputation. It will comes up in all the newsletters. Yes, then that's the issue. So in short, and I'm finishing this. I would say our role as leaders, it becomes in being translators, meaning turn all that noise in something that business can act with clarity, mind, and speed right away. Boom. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Marcel. Well,
Thank you very much.
Time. Thank you very much. I think we have some questions, but we have to finish. So maybe we can put in the chat later so anyone can read the answer. So the time. Thank you very much, Luis. Thank you very much, Marcel. Thank you very much to the audience for being here. And thank you, both of you, for these insights and this experience that you have transferred to the audience. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us today. And I think, as a summary, there is one thing that is clear today. The vulnerabilities are growing, the threats are changing, and in fact, they are multiplying. And the thing is, smarter defense come from context, not the quantity, as Marcel has mentioned before. This is one critical point. Whether we redefine how we classify risk, adapt the frameworks to the real world, use artificial intelligence with more or less caution, and we train our teams to prioritize and to have this mindset, I think that resilience will be in the best position to respond this new context, new environment, and the things that is coming now. We hope you have today's session with ideas you can apply immediately. You have some topics for your day today, and we'll see you in the next TED Talk. Until then, build fast and stay secure. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.